All right, let's jump into another deep dive. And today, we are going to be looking at AgroGreen Dynamics.
Okay.
This is a company based in Nigeria, and they're tackling a lot of the challenges that small-scale farmers are facing.
Yeah.
So we've got a bunch of articles, research testimonials, and it's not just about the fertilizer they offer. It's about this whole ecosystem they've built to empower farmers. We're talking about increased yields. We're talking about a unique membership program, and even opportunities to export produce directly.
What I find interesting here is that it seems like they're really thinking about the bigger picture. Supporting farmers doesn't just mean handing them a product.
Right.
It means providing this whole system of support around them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this. First off, what exactly AgroGreen Dynamics?
Sure.
We need to ground this conversation before we dive into the details.
So AgroGreen Dynamics, they officially launched in Nigeria in 2024, but their flagship product, Humi WSP, actually has a longer history. So it evolved from a brand called Diamond Grow, which was later acquired and developed by Humi Growth Solutions, which then became HGS Bioscience. So this isn't some brand new, untested product.
That's an interesting point. The lineage of the product, it speaks to a level of experience and refinement.
Yeah.
But they're not J-ested about fertilizer, are they?
Right. Their focus is on sustainable organic solutions, but they've also created this online marketplace and a physical office in Nigeria.
Okay.
And they've partnered with companies like Bumpa and Paystack to ensure these secure online transactions. So it builds trust and accessibility for farmers who maybe aren't as used to doing business online.
Okay. Speaking of their product, Humi WSP, this is where I start to get curious.
Yeah.
I love digging into the science, but explain it to me like I'm a farmer, not a chemist.
Yeah.
What makes this fertilizer so special?
So it's a premium organic foliar fertilizer. And importantly, for those who are concerned about quality standards, it's produced in the USA. But the real story is in the composition. So you've got humic acid in there, which improves water retention.
Okay.
But it's not just about improving water retention. Think of it as strengthening the soil structure at a microscopic level, making it more resistant to erosion and improving aeration, which allows roots to grow deeper.
Hold on, before we jump to the next ingredient.
Sure.
Let's stick with humic acid for a second.
Yeah.
Deeper roots, better structure. How does that actually affect the crops? Like, does it make them more resistant to drought?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there is some evidence to suggest that humic acid, because it improves the soil's ability to hold water and those deeper roots can access moisture further down, it can actually play a role in drought resistance.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
And that's crucial, especially in regions with unpredictable rainfall.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the other ingredients. You mentioned fulvic acid.
Right. Fulvic acid is like a supercharger for nutrient uptake. So it helps the plants absorb and utilize nutrients more efficiently. You can think of it as enhancing the plant's metabolism and their natural detoxification processes.
So not only are we talking about healthy soil, we're talking about optimizing the plant's ability to use those nutrients. So like a two-pronged approach to boosting yields.
Exactly. And then, of course, you have organic matter in there, which feeds the beneficial microbes in the soil. Those microbes are essential for breaking down organic matter and releasing nutrients that plants can use. And potassium, which plays a key role in plant strength disease resistance and water regulation.
Okay.
Plus, you've got a balanced blend of other essential nutrients like iron, calcium, and trace minerals.
It's interesting how they've combined all these elements into a single product.
Right.
And it ties back to their emphasis on sustainability.
Yeah.
Like they're building up the soil, not just providing a quick fix.
Yeah.
But how do you actually APPLY this stuff?
So they provide really specific instructions, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
You start by making a concentrate. 1 kilogram of humic WSP mixed with 6 liters of water.
Okay.
And then the dilution for application depends on what you're growing. For a standard application, you would dilute 1 liter of that concentrate with 15 liters of water and spray it over an acre.
Oh, that's pretty precise.
It is.
What about for smaller farms? Do they scale down the instructions?
Absolutely. They have instructions for a range of plot sizes down to even 120 square meters.
Wow.
They even have a guide on estimating your farm size based on your crops.
So they've taken into account different farming scales?
Yeah.
That makes it more accessible for different types of farmers?
Right.
But they also mention specific instructions for arable and perennial crops.
Yeah.
What's the reasoning there?
So it's all about tailoring the application to the needs of the plants.
Okay.
So arable crops like grains and vegetables, they have shorter life cycles, so they need more concentrated doses at specific times.
Got it.
But perennial crops like fruit trees, they benefit from smaller, more consistent applications over a longer period.
Okay, so it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
They've put a lot of thought into the application process, matching it to the growth cycles and the nutrient demands of different crops.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about this membership program.
Mm-hmm.
I have to admit, this is the part that made me raise an eyebrow.
The 10,000 feet.
Yeah, the lifetime membership to their cooperative society.
Yeah.
On the surface, it seems like an incredible deal.
Yeah, it does.
But there are so many benefits listed. It's almost overwhelming.
It is. So let's break it down.
Okay.
So the Grow Smart membership gives you access to discounts on products and bulk buying options. It's like a wholesale club, but specifically for farmers.
Okay. And then there's the AgriNetwork Profit Plan, which lets you earn money through referrals. It's a smart way to incentivize farmers to spread the word about their products and services, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. It's a very common strategy, but the real question is, how sustainable is this model? You know, if everyone's focused on recruitment,
right,
does the emphasis shift from the product itself? That's something I think we need to explore further.
You're right. We can't just take these benefits at face value. We need to dig deeper. And speaking of digging deeper, the Agro-Export Gateway, that's the one that really caught my attention. Direct access to export markets for small-scale farmers. That's potentially huge E.
It is a bold claim, and it raises a lot of questions. You know, cutting out the middleman sounds great.
Yeah.
But what kind of logistical support does AgroGreen provide?
Right.
Do they help with quality control packaging, meeting international standards? And crucially, are there success stories of farmers who've actually significantly increased their income through this program?
You raise some really valid points.
Yeah.
It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of all these benefits. But we need to look at the practical realities as well.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another key aspect, the claimed 40% increase in yields.
Right.
40%.
That's a big number.
It is a big number. So are there independent studies to support this?
Yeah.
Or are we just relying on testimonials?
That's a good question to ask. You know, we need to see data, we need to see case studies, we need to see real-world examples, and we should also consider the variation in results based on factors like soil type, climate, and farming practices.
Exactly. And that's what we'll explore next. So let's delve into the application of Humic WSP and see how those instructions translate to real-world results.
Sounds good. So we were just talking about those impressive yield increases AgroGreen is claiming.
Yeah.
A potential 40% boost?
Potential 40%. That's
extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm all for innovation and supporting farmers.
Right.
But I'm also a bit of a data geek.
Okay.
So I need to see some numbers to really get on board.
Sure. Well, in the materials you shared, there are some case studies and testimonials from farmers who've used Humic WSP. And they report impressive results, not just in terms of yield, but also in crop quality and soil health.
Yeah, that's a good start. But testimonials can be selective, right? Are there any independent studies or trials that have been conducted?
So they mentioned field trials conducted in collaboration with agricultural universities and research institutions. They haven't published full reports yet, but the preliminary findings seem to support their claims of increased yields and improved soil fertility.
That's promising. But I'd really like to see those full reports when they're available. Transparency is key.
Yeah.
Especially when you're making such bold claims.
Absolutely.
But even if the yield increase is real, it's not just about the numbers, is it?
Right.
What about the environmental impact of this fertilizer?
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
AgroGreen emphasizes that Humic WSP is a sustainable and organic product.
Right.
But we need to look beyond the marketing.
Yeah.
What are the long-term effects on the soil ecosystem?
Exactly.
Are there potential downsides we need to consider?
For example, they talk about promoting beneficial microbes in the soil. But could there be unintended consequences? Could this fertilizer disrupt the natural balance of the soil microbiome?
That's a valid concern. And it's something that researchers are still studying. You know, the impact of any fertilizer, even organic ones, on that delicate balance of the soil ecosystem is complex.
Yeah.
We need more long-term studies to fully understand the potential effects.
It sounds like we need to take a cautious approach, balancing enthusiasm with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah, I think that's wise.
But for now, let's assume that the fertilizer is as effective and sustainable as they claim.
Okay.
How does it actually work in practice? We talked about the application process.
Right.
But what happens after you spray it on your crops?
So the humic and fulvic acids go to work improving the soil structure, boosting nutrient uptake. The organic matter provides food for those beneficial microbes, further enhancing soil fertility. And those precisely calibrated nutrient ratios ensure that the plants are getting exactly what they need to thrive.
Okay, that makes sense. But I'm still curious about those detailed instructions they provide. Yeah. Are they really necessary? Couldn't a farmer just use their own judgment?
There's probably some wiggle room. But remember, AgroGreen is promoting a very specific system.
Right.
They've done the research, they've conducted the trials, and those precise instructions are likely based on their findings.
It's like a recipe, right?
Exactly.
You can try to improvise.
Sure.
But if you want the best results,
yeah,
you probably should follow the instructions.
I agree. And it's not just about getting the most out of the product. Yeah. It's also about responsible usage. You know, applying too much fertilizer can actually harm the soil and the environment.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And it brings us back to their emphasis on training and support.
Right.
It sounds like they're not just trying to sell farmers a product.
Yeah.
They're trying to educate them.
Exactly. Remember those demonstration plots they offer?
Yeah.
That's a great way for farmers to see the application process in action and learn from experienced professionals.
And what about that AgroGreen Farmer Circle we mentioned earlier?
Yes.
What's that all about?
So that's an online community where farmers can connect with each other, share their experiences, and get advice from AgroGreen experts. It's like a social network, but specifically for agriculture.
That's a really interesting concept. It creates a sense of community and encourages knowledge sharing among farmers. But let's shift gears for a bit and go back to that membership program. We touched on the agro-export gateway and the potential for increased income. But there were a lot of unanswered questions.
There were.
Yeah.
We need to dig deeper into how this gateway actually works.
Yeah.
They talk about bypassing the middleman, but what does that mean in practice?
Right.
Do they have established partnerships with international buyers?
Yeah.
What kind of volume are we talking about? And most importantly, how does this translate to real benefits for the farmers?
It sounds impressive.
Yeah.
But I'm always wary of anything that sounds too good to be true.
Sure.
We need concrete examples. Success stories, hard data.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the potential challenges. Exporting agricultural products involves complex logistics, quality control meeting international standards.
Yeah.
How does AgroGreen support farmers in navigating these complexities?
They mentioned something called the Agri-Unity Export Alliance.
Yes.
What's that all about?
So from what I've gathered, it's a collective branding initiative that aims to give smallholder farmers a stronger presence in international markets.
Okay.
By pooling their resources and presenting a unified brand, they can potentially increase their visibility and negotiating power.
So it's about strength in numbers, right?
Exactly.
Creating a collective force that can compete with larger exporters. That's a fascinating concept. But again, we need to see how it translates to tangible results for the farmers involved.
It's all about impact, not just impressive sounding initiatives.
Exactly. And that brings us to another key question. Risk management. Farming is inherently unpredictable.
It is.
What happens when crops fail due to weather, pests, or disease?
That's where insurance comes in. And AgroGreen offers their Green Shield Agro Insurance Program.
Okay.
It's designed to protect farmers from those unforeseen events that can wipe out their income.
Okay, so they've thought about the financial security of their members. That's a responsible approach.
It is.
But what about the next generation of farmers? Are they doing anything to support young people who are interested in agriculture?
They do. They have a program called AgriNext Youth Empowerment Program.
Okay.
It's a multifaceted initiative that includes mentorship programs, seed capital for young entrepreneurs, and pilot projects that encourage innovation.
That's really encouraging.
Yeah.
Investing in young farmers is essential for the future of agriculture.
Yeah.
Not just in Nigeria, but globally.
I agree.
But, starting a farm or expanding an existing one requires capital. Do they address the financial needs of farmers who might not have access to traditional loans?
They do. Their Farm Aid Finance Access Program provides guidance and support to farmers seeking financial assistance. They help them navigate the often confusing world of agricultural loans, government grants, and other funding options.
Sounds like a financial advisory service specifically for farmers. That's a valuable resource, especially for those who might not be familiar with the ins and outs of securing funding.
Yeah, definitely.
But let's be realistic. Farming isn't just about money and paperwork.
Of course not.
It's hard work that requires tools and equipment.
Absolutely. And AgroGreen recognizes that. Their AgroClip Advantage program offers subsidized access to modern farming equipment and infrastructure. This can be a game changer for farmers who might not be able to afford the latest technology.
It sounds like they've really thought about the entire farming ecosystem.
Yeah.
From the soil to the seeds to the tools and the financial resources needed to succeed.
They really have.
But we're still missing one crucial piece of the puzzle.
Okay, but what's that?
How does AgroGreen itself generate revenue?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
We've explored all these programs and benefits for their members. Right.
But how does AgroGreen sustain itself? Where's the profit coming from?
It's all very intriguing, but it also raises some concerns. Are they prioritizing the well-being of their members? Or is this just a clever marketing scheme designed to generate profits for the company?
To get to the bottom of that, we need to look at their financial model. And that leads us to the final and perhaps most intriguing element of AgroGreen Dynamics.
Okay.
The Farm Wealth Cooperative share.
So we've been dissecting AgroGreen Dynamics, and honestly, the more we learn, the more curious I get. It's like this puzzle, right? We see all these pieces, the fertilizer, the training, the export support, even insurance.
Right.
But how do they all fit together? And more importantly, how does AgroGreen itself benefit?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, we've been a little bit skeptical digging into the potential downsides, but there's this one element that we haven't really talked about yet.
Yeah.
That might be the key to understanding their entire business model, the Farm Wealth Cooperative share.
Yeah.
The profit-sharing aspect.
This is where things could get really interesting.
It really does shift the dynamic, doesn't it?
Right.
Instead of just being customers,
Yeah.
the members become stakeholders.
Yeah.
They have a direct financial interest in the success of the entire cooperative.
So it's not just about AgroGreen selling products and services.
Yeah.
It's about creating a system where everyone involved
Right.
shares in the profits. That's a pretty radical departure from the traditional agricultural business model.
It is. And they do this through annual dividends. Based on the cooperative's overall revenue, the members essentially become co-owners.
Okay.
The more successful the cooperative, the more each member benefits.
Okay. But where's that revenue coming from? We've talked about discounted products.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't generate enough profit to sustain this whole system, would it?
Right. That's where those other revenue streams come in. The export program, the training services, the financial advisory services. They're essentially creating this diversified portfolio of agricultural businesses.
Right.
And the profits are shared amongst the members. So it's like a closed-loop system with every aspect feeding back into the overall prosperity of the cooperative. But let's play devil's advocate for a moment. What happens if the cooperative doesn't perform well? Do members lose money?
Well, that's a risk, of course. Like any investment, there are no guarantees.
Right.
However, the structure seems designed to mitigate those risks, by diversifying their revenue streams and focusing on sustainable practices. They're aiming to create a more resilient and stable system.
It's still a gamble, though. Farmers are putting their trust and their money into this cooperative.
Yeah.
Are there any safeguards in place to ensure transparency and accountability?
That's a really critical point.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, they emphasize transparency in their operations, and they have a board of directors that includes farmer representatives. But, it's essential for potential members to really scrutinize the financials, understand the risks involved, and make informed decisions.
So we've explored the potential benefits, the possible downsides, and the innovative business model. But what does it all mean? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think that's the question, isn't it? AgroGreen Dynamics presents this very bold vision, a potential future where farmers or empowered communities thrive and agriculture becomes a force for positive change.
But it's not a guaranteed success.
Right.
There are challenges, risks.
Of course.
And a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Absolutely. But whether or not this specific model ultimately succeeds, I think it challenges us to think differently about agriculture.
Yeah.
It pushes us to consider these alternative approaches that prioritize sustainability, community, and shared prosperity.
And that's a conversation worth having.
It is.
Regardless of the outcome.
Absolutely. AgroGreen Dynamics is a fascinating case study.
It is.
And it raises some really important questions about the future of food production. Can we create systems that are both profitable and sustainable? Can we empower small-scale farmers while meeting this growing demand for food?
Right.
These are challenges that I think we all need to grapple with.
And that's where we leave you today. Deep divers. With more questions than answers, perhaps. But that's the beauty of a deep dive, isn't it? It's about sparking curiosity, challenging assumptions, and empowering you to explore further. So keep digging, keep questioning, and keep an open mind. Thanks for joining us.